You're a minor, you do not have to say your name for the record if you don't want to, but of course, if you want to say your name, you're more than welcome to do so. With that, you may proceed with your statement this afternoon.
Thank you. I'm Fredrick Shepherd. Thank you for letting me speak today, Your Honor. If I could, I would like to address the defendant, or offender, sorry. I wanted to clarify to you one small thing before you go and spend the rest of your pointless waste of a life sitting there with nothing left to rot away to. I know that through all of this, you desperately wanted to be remembered as one of the school shooters. I know you wanted to be loved and cared for from the awful things that you did, but you have never been loved, you have never been cared for, and you will never be remembered. You may attempt to convince yourself that you have finally got your way, that the world, or more importantly, your parents are finally able to see just how messed up you are. But even to this day, nearly 2 years later, they don't. Once they found out what was happening that godforsaken day, they did not care about you. They didn't text you to find out if you were okay. They never called just so they could hear your voice. They never said the words, "I love you." And once the dust had settled, they didn't attempt to find their child, who had supposedly just been through the most traumatic experience of their life, but instead they ran. They ran as far away from you as they possibly could. When even your own two parents, who are supposed to love you and care for you, no matter what the world may throw your way, don't love you, you know you are unloved. You may think that in some small way, the news has to be remembering you. The news has to remember you any time they report on the story. But they don't. They do not care about the actions, but instead the consequences. They do not care about the person who committed the crime, but instead the people affected. You are simply a forgotten teeny tiny puzzle piece someone lost under the couch and never cared enough to find. You will never be remembered. Your microscopic brain may still believe that because you committed the heinous act of unthinkable violence in a public building that remains standing, you will be remembered and cared for. You will not. In 5, 10, 15 years, no one will remember you, let alone what happened in that building. They will not remember the predator, but instead the prey. They will not remember that one cold hell-like day a student had enough of this world and decided to take it out on innocent people, but instead the innocent lives who were cut entirely too short. You may think that in some incredibly small ways, the families who are yelling at you, insulting you, screaming obscenities at you, must care about you. They don't. They couldn't care less if it was you sitting in front of them or if it was someone off the street. They are not mad at you. They are not upset with you. They are not wanting to kill the person sitting there. They are mad at the situation. They are upset at the situation. They want to kill the situation. No one cares if you are a part of their life or not. Your speck of a brain may still believe that when the family speaks of their loved ones, they have to be reminded of you. They don't. When they speak of their loved ones, they remember the laughs, the cries, the ups, the downs, the in-betweens, and the love, not the fear, unsettlement, and sense of danger they had to endure in the last seconds of their life. They remember the beautiful, amazing lives they lived, not the horrendous last seconds they had to interact with you. You may still have the idea that by me standing up here in front of you, by me expressing all of this anger, I must hate you, which in your jumbled translation means I love you. I hate the feeling that every time I am somewhere in public, I need to have people constantly surrounding me so I can easily blend in and escape. I hate the feeling that I constantly need to stand guard and constantly need to mark every possible exit, think through every situation, watch every single person that seemingly looks suspicious to me, just in case someone came in wanting to kill me. I hate thinking that every time I go to bed, there's someone just outside my window, someone who has been stalking me, waiting for the perfect moment to shoot me dead. I hate constantly being reminded of the hell that I endured. I hate seeing flashes when I close my eyes at night. I hate hearing bangs in my head. I hate hearing sirens. I hate picturing that hallway I was in. I hate that my trauma is all I can ever think about. I hate the position you have put me in. But I do not hate you, and I certainly do not love you. I remember giving my loving dog a hug and seeing my normally hyperactive boxer standing so still, staring up at me, seemingly knowing I was in pain and I needed her. I remember telling my new fish that I almost didn't make it home that day and wondering if my parents would have forgotten to feed them if I died that day. I remember the realization of what I meant to my family when my mom had to frantically search for me, her only child, knowing that if she lost me, she wouldn't have anything. I remember the care of my neighbors when they came and checked on me and gave me the smallest feeling of normalcy that I so needed. I remember the rush of love I felt when so many people in my life called me or came to see me, so they could comfort me and see my face. I remember the noisiness in my head as I desperately tried to make sense of what had just happened to me. I remember how wide my eyes were as I stared at the news coverage, how I snapped at my parents to keep the TV on while I sat there with a pillow, the button digging into me, motionless, zombie-like, staring at the footage of the room I had just escaped from. but I do not ever remember caring to learn who had done this to me, who had caused all of this for me, and I still don't. I remember hearing the initial gunshots, realizing something wasn't right. I remember paying attention to every bang I heard because I knew, though didn't understand why, it would be important at the dinner table conversation I would later have that night. I remember standing there, begging my guardian angel to let me in, to save my life, attempting to put a pathetic, desperate, scared baby deer look on my face, while I heard chaos erupting behind me. I remember the terror of the sensation of a bullet buzzing my head and the evasive thoughts that I had just evaded death itself. I remember hearing the first of the police to arrive and trying to convince myself, it's okay, I'm safe now, even though I knew nothing. I remember that god-awful feeling of my Fitbit vibrating viciously on my wrist, alternating between calls from my mom and my dad over and over and over again, while I stared at my backpack, housing my phone safely out of my reach. I remember listening to every single siren that passed, listening for the whoops, the wails, the honks, just so I could decipher between a fire truck, ambulance, and police car, and attempt to calm myself. I remember the exact moment my parents stopped attempting to locate me, the exact moment it seemed every siren in Michigan was rushing past me, the exact moment I continued to hear gunshots in the hall, the exact moment I knew I was lost. I remember when I didn't feel anymore, when I was standing shivering yet warm in the exhaust-filled parking lot, finally on the phone with my mom, staring into a gray abyss scattered with flashing lights. But I do not remember you. I do not remember what you were wearing. I do not remember who you were. I do not remember where you came from. I remember the gun, but I do not remember the hand that pulled the trigger. And no matter how hard you try to convince yourself that somewhere out there must be someone who cares, there must be someone who loves you, there must be someone who remembers, you will never be able to, because even you hate yourself. You do not care for yourself, you do not love yourself, and you do not remember yourself. No one has, does, or will ever care for you, love you, nor remember you. You are an uncared for, unloved, and forgotten devil. Your Honor, I am done speaking to this thing. It chose to go down this path. It chose violence when there were so many better options. It chose to take 4 innocent young lives. If it is ever let back out into this world, who knows how many will be added to this list. If it can't be trusted once, how can it be trusted twice? If it gets anything less than a life sentence, the world and I will be in a constant state of fear, waiting for it to strike its next prey.
Thank you for your statements this afternoon.